Hello Straters! Well, we did the Pauper Gauntlet Season 3 and now it's time to evaluate it. I do this every year. I try to keep all your feedback in one place, so this is the place I'm gonna look when I make the decisions for Season 4. So please state your feedback for the Pauper Gauntlet in the comments below. That is the only place I'm gonna look. I like to stress that. Okay, I'm gonna talk a lot here, but the main point is your feedback. So, Aristocrats did win Pauper Gauntlet Season 3. Brewer and champion was Paul Jones. The deck had a record of 10-1 compared to the winning record of Stompy last year, which was 12-1. We played only 12 rounds. We did 13 last year. I have not even counted the total number of matches, but it was a lot of matches. We were a few days short of 6 months. We ran from November 8th to May 5th. And here I like to stress that all the pressure on me is in the early rounds. For the last 2 months, it was only fun on my part, whereas I was thinking about quitting Magic in like the first 2 months. So I like the length of the gauntlet. I would even possibly want the early rounds to be even longer, to reduce some of the stress at the start, but I understand that we actually did that this year. These early rounds were longer than the early rounds of Season 2. That is why this gauntlet was almost a month longer than Season 2. The viewership increased by far. There were, well, 600 subscribers to the reserve channel Magic Gathering Strat 2, which was like the place for hardcore fans. I don't know if they watched all. I think there was at least 300 plus hardcore fans, which is enormous for the Pauper Gauntlet. And roughly well over 5,000 unique viewers, possibly much more than that. It was the biggest gauntlet by far, so in that it was a great success. And I really want to do the 4th season now. I'm like missing the Pauper Gauntlet a lot. I'm in Magic withdrawal quite a lot right now. I really miss the Gauntlet. I don't know really what to do. The channel, Magic Gathering Strat, took some damage. Possibly not from the Pauper Gauntlet, but the Patreon is down quite a bit. The ad revenue is down quite a bit as well. And that is of course horrible for my full-time YouTuber podcaster project, which is still going. I am still working with these things, but now my effort is spent on other things than Magic Gathering Strat, because I did all this work and it really didn't help the channel, but it helped the gauntlet itself. So there are some things. Oh, did I start about this? No, I didn't. Season 4 is has a possible start date of December 4th. This is the first possible start date. I could start a Pauper Gauntlet Season 4 on December 4th, 2016. That depends on the Patreon, because if I don't have enough revenue to support myself, enough income to live with this YouTube podcaster thing, then I have to like look for a job or something next year, and then I can't do the Pauper Gauntlet, of course. So please support the Magic Gathering Strat Patreon. Well, here I'm gonna do a separate video blog about Magic Gathering Strat as a whole, because we have some thoughts on that. But that is not what this video is about. We are here to discuss the Pauper Gauntlet. So what did you like about the Pauper Gauntlet? I want some positive feedback as well. Why do you watch the Pauper Gauntlet? What does the Pauper Gauntlet mean for you? I get a lot of comments from people who like get into Pauper because of the Pauper Gauntlet. I just love that the Pauper Gauntlet shows the amount of decks you can build, that combo is possible, etc. So please give me your love and positive feedback as well, and the negative stuff. Tell me what could be improved about the Gauntlet. Try to be constructive. But in order for you to be able to critique the Pauper Gauntlet, you have to know what cannot be changed. So administration is enormous. The work involved in doing the Pauper Gauntlet is crazy. Simply because I have to play 400 matches. I think it was about 400, somewhat over 400 matches, or somewhat below 400 matches, around 400 matches. That is a lot of time. A lot of time. So anything that adds more time on me will probably not be incorporated into the Pauper Gauntlet. That includes any scheduling with people, like a bracket system. That's why it says no bracket system. If I can't have an opponent, a regular scheduled opponent, it has to be a random person. And I know you appreciate being the random opponent. In this gauntlet, many times more than in earlier gauntlets, the opponent was someone who knew it was the Pauper Gauntlet. And that was a lot of great fan interaction, so I really like that. Well, I do spend a lot of time on administration. I try to list a couple of things I do when I do the gauntlet, but this is not all. Maybe the biggest thing is answering your comments. I spend a lot of time answering YouTube comments, so yes, that is definitely a big part. Open deck submission is when I really am dying from the administration burden, trying to put the decks together, look for the cards, decide which decks to keep and not, etc. And this year, because of the interest, sort of the negative feedback during open deck submission, it shone through. It really put me down. I'll talk more about that when it comes to open deck submission. I write the weekly article on mtglibrary.blogspot.com. I thought I plugged this article so much, but most people did not even know about it. I did put some of those articles on magicgatheringstrat.com as well. The procedure for entering articles on magicgatheringstrat.com is not simple. So that they were very late, and yeah, they were not very important. I don't think many people read them. The competition itself, watching the competition, seeing which decks are free and which are not, etc., takes some time. And of course, I have to keep the Excel sheet up to date. I have to keep different versions of it because I live in 2 places, etc. And the scheduling of videos, putting them in playlists, entering show notes, that takes time. I probably spent about 1.5 work week on administration only. And then we have the play on top of that. So I think these numbers are roughly correct. 300 hours or maybe 400 hours on making videos. So the matches needs to be me and a totally random opponent. Okay, here, and then there are the things we can change. So I'm gonna discuss them like a point of evaluation. First, double elimination. This was now the 2nd year this was used, and I think it works very nicely. We do double elimination in the Just for Fun room for round 1 and 2 because we want to see the decks play. So we want, in the first season of the Pauper Gauntlet, the decks were just eliminated by chance and then gone. And that felt very dissatisfactory for the brewer and for people who wanted to see the deck, etc. And that wasn't any good. So just this structure is pretty good. I might even consider going to a triple elimination or like run 3 rounds like this, and you only need to win 1. That would of course increase the number of matches quite a bit. I don't feel that is a big problem if I can increase the time for the gauntlet. But are you fine with the 6, 7, 8 month gauntlet? If it comes down to me only, I could run the Pauper Gauntlet for a year. I would have zero problem with that, but I don't know if you would. Oh, I should have added to this. Hey, here, deck updates. We started in November because we had a lot of deck updates in season 2, and not allowing deck updates, even if there was a new card that influenced the meta, it's the same for every deck, and having no deck updates did reduce administration, and those things I'm really looking for. So there will be no deck updates next year in season 4, and of course that is an argument against the very long gauntlet, but Pauper changes extremely slowly, and it's the same for all the decks. So what else here? This year we also did not play the decks that won in round 1 in round 2 in the second round of double elimination. In season 2 we did, and I think I liked season 2 better. When the real matches started, it felt better to play the deck twice last year than we did this year. So I think all decks should be playing every round of double elimination, even if they don't risk elimination. The Pauper Fairy Tale video from season 2, that was the kind of stuff that could happen if we have double elimination rounds. That doesn't mean anything. I can just go crazy, and I think I think we all like that. And of course they are on the... I would put them on the reserve channel if the matches doesn't matter. So I think that's a good idea. But what do you think? The first 4 rounds felt very, very big. Took a long time. I was pretty overworked at the time. And of course we spam too many videos on the main channel. I don't have any problems with spamming the reserve channel Magic Gathering Strat 2. And I think that we could... There has been a suggestion we should rename the reserve channel to the Pauper Gauntlet channel. And we could. We could put other reserve channel videos on Magic Gathering Strat 3, the old reserve channel. But I don't know if that matters. Do you think the reserve channel should be named the Pauper Gauntlet? I do think more videos should go on the reserve channel, but that's a later point of evaluation. So this is double elimination, good or bad, 2 or 3 rounds. Should decks play that doesn't have anything on the line, like we did in Season 2, or should the decks that won in round 1 then not get a match in round 2 or 3 and then just play? Deck submission then. We had 4 ways to enter decks into Season 3, and this was new. We never had the collaborations before. We never had the patrons before. Earlier there were only the top 10 decks and open deck submissions. I like all of these ways to enter decks into the Pauper Gauntlet, and I will look at them each one. The top 10 decks, I had a couple of problems. It was hard to find the brewers after 7 months had passed. Familiars had to run with the old list. It was brewerless. I did ask for captains. This was the way I did this. First I contacted the brewers. So do you want to represent your own deck for the next season? And I got a couple of them, not all of them by far. Then I asked the patrons, do you want to captain a deck, a top 10 deck for the Pauper Gauntlet? And a couple of people did, like Stompy for example, by Canoes then. And then I asked the public, do you want a captain? When I didn't get the patrons to do it. And I still could not find a captain for Familiars, which was a problem. But I think I don't have any ideas how to improve this. So the top 10 decks will be back next year. That is something that is written in stone pretty much. And I think it will work about this way next time too. Tell me what you think. The next way to enter the deck was by patrons. So every $5 patron was offered a deck spot in the Pauper Gauntlet. And only one person did it. And that was Stompy Tokens. So I like that way. I think this is an extra incentive to be a patron. So I think this is important. Because we need to finance the Pauper Gauntlet that I spend all this time somehow. Otherwise I have to do something else to be able to support this company thing that I am running. The collaboration, there was a lot of critique for the decks from Cardboard Commons because they came from the Pauper Rogue Cup, which was a live tournament. And in that tournament you could not play a deck that had 2% of the Pauper meta on Magic Online. And I think that was wonderful. We got these rogue decks, and I think the Pauper Gauntlet's all about the rogue decks. I even talked briefly during deck submission about not allowing tier 1 decks in the Pauper Gauntlet. But I was massively shut down by feedback then, so I'm not going to propose that here. But I do love the rogue decks, the innovations, the aristocrats of the world, if you want. So the collaboration with Cardboard Commons was super good for the Pauper Gauntlet, and here is why. We got more exposure. There were things happening that related to the Pauper Gauntlet 2 months before the Pauper Gauntlet started, causing more viewers, more people in Spain were interested in the Pauper Gauntlet because of this. And I want more collaborations. I have another YouTube channel that are interested in doing stuff for the Pauper Gauntlet. I want more. If you publish Pauper content, send me a message. Send me a message on Facebook. I'm Don Hörning, the only person in the world called that. Or you could do it through the Magic Gathering Strat Facebook. But I'm definitely looking for more sites. And this way we could have deck submission go on over a much longer time than 10 days of open deck submissions, which are horrible. They are, whoa, so intense. I still think open deck submission have a place, but I really want to do this. I want to do this before open deck submissions. So I think I could unite the patrons and the collaboration sites. And if for example there comes two decks that are extremely similar, if they are somewhat different, like 10 cards different from each other, Delver decks, I would be inclined to allow both decks, because having two similar decks in the Pauper Gauntlet, like Bugs and Pigs and Pig Trinket, from my perspective, it doesn't do any damage to the Pauper Gauntlet. They were both voted back. They were both super popular decks. So this is the way I want to do it. First patrons and collabs, and then open deck submissions. But I want your input as well. But this is a great way to create more exposure and more Pauper Gauntlet content that I don't need to do. So open deck submission is a massive amount of work in a short period of time. I think I've done 8 or 10 days. It's very arbitrary because the decision comes down to me. And with this huge number of viewers we had this year, like no other season, I got a lot of negative feedback. So why don't you allow... Oh, it was that combo deck. Oh, my mind blanks. Presence of Gaunt combo. I was like, okay, we had that in season 1 and 2, we're not gonna have it now. And I did have a bad cop in season 1, if you remember. So I didn't have to make those decisions. He just shots things down. And if I didn't object strongly to what he said, I just didn't mind. And then I didn't take any negative feedback, which was pretty good for me because I had a lot of work to do. In season 2, I decided not to use a bad cop, and it worked very well. And I decided not to use a bad cop again in season 3, and I don't think it worked very well. I was on my knees during open deck submissions. And during the first few rounds of this gauntlet. I was actually feeling quite bad about the gauntlet at the start, but that came back in the last 3 months. I love the gauntlet. And of course, if I am not motivated to do this, there is no Pauper Gauntlet. So I have to care about that. Sorry for being such a sensitive schmuck. So, but I think open deck submission has a place, and I think I need a bad cop. I need someone who works with me on a volunteer basis. I hope I can find one person like I did in season 1 that is there just to say no to decks and have a pretty good grasp of the Pauper format. So if anybody is a volunteer to be the bad cop and take the heat off my back, please let me know. I'm gonna look for another volunteer for the season 4 Pauper Gauntlet as well later on in this video. Wow, this is turning out long. Okay, 2 YouTube channels worked great. We were still running too many videos on the main channel. 1 video a day was way too much. We lost some number of subscribers. I would say it's about 200 or 300 because of unsubscriptions due to too many Pauper videos. Videos on the main channel got a lot more views, but I think we should do 1 Pauper Gauntlet video every other day on the main channel for the next season, and the rest of the videos on Magic Gathering Strat 2. A lot more people found the reserve channel than last year, so I think this worked well. What do you think? I'm not gonna do streaming because of sniping. We did have a main sponsor this year. What did you think about this? That I spent 10 seconds at the beginning of every video talking about mtgotickets.com. They seem to be quite happy with this. I have not asked them if they want to be back, as we don't have a date for season 4. How did this impact you as a viewer? Please let me know. They also added a lot to the competition price. Now the price in the last season was an Elspeth, a $20 card at the time. And this year you got 100 bot credits. Did 0 for the competition. The competition filled the competition where you try to guess the winner of the Pauper Gauntlet. It filled about as quickly as it did last season, and adding this much to the price didn't do anything. So I will probably not have a prize this big next year because it didn't help. And also one other thing that I think is written in stone as well. I don't want to have a prize for the brewer. I need to attract more viewers, more patrons, etc. But I don't need to attract more brewers. There is no shortage in brewers. And I think the reason is that brewers get a lot of coverage in the Pauper Gauntlet. I love to cover the Gauntlet, but they don't need a price as well. So I'm not gonna put a price. I like the way this is structured. The price was always a way to get more viewers committed to the Pauper Gauntlet. Like, if you are the champion of a top 10 deck, you are like, yes, you go on the wall of fame, etc. So yeah, I should put that in here as well. Okay, so let's go on here. Sorry for spending all this time, but I get really fired up here. The start date in November, this was very different from earlier years when we started in August. And the reason was that I am doing a lot of biking. The biking season was, I thought it was ended. I am in Sweden, it's pretty cold, but I could bike in November. So maybe I could do a December start. Of course, it's the early rounds that needs to be in the winter, so it doesn't, so I don't feel like, oh no, I should be biking. But I'm pretty pleased with the November or December start date. There is of course a break during Christmas, but I think you like the content, and I just scheduled videos before Christmas, so that worked as well. Was also one of the reasons the early rounds was so long in time, because I couldn't record during Christmas break, but I don't think you even noticed, did you? The round structure then. We started the 2-mans in round 12. The win rate in the 2-mans is much lower. I'm having a 60 to 70% win rate in the tournament practice room, and I think I have a 50% win rate at best in the 2-mans. So I want the 2-mans to be pretty late. I don't want 10 decks to enter 2-man round and then 3 leave, which could easily happen, because that would end the Pauper Gauntlet earlier. But I do think that the 2-mans should move to round 11. That's my main thing I think about here, and maybe have another double elimination round in round 3. So what do you think about the round structure? I do want a set round structure. I want to know that this round is in the tournament practice room, this round is in 2-mans. I don't want to set it on the number of decks, because I like to plan things out and know what I'm supposed to do earlier. So I think that is what I want to do. What do you think? 78 decks gave us, that was the earlier figure. I think it is 400 plus matches. I still think that I want to increase the number of decks. I don't know if that is a very good idea. I think the golden number is probably about 60. You saw how hard it was to find good decks at the end of open deck submission. There was a lot of no's there. So I don't know. One thing is to allow multiple decks that are very similar to each other, for example during the collab entries. But tell me what you think. What is the right number of decks for the Pauper Gauntlet? Of course, this is the main way of reducing the time of the Pauper Gauntlet. If we ran 60 decks, we would be done much earlier. But I don't think that is good at all. Whoa, yeah, this was an old thing for season 3, for the evaluation of season 2. That is also old stuff. Deck updates, yes, no deck updates. Vote back, we voted back 3 decks after round 4 again. I have been thinking about multiple vote backs, like the round 7 vote back or something, but I think this worked very well. We got more votes in the vote back than ever before. So what do you think about the vote back? Yeah, so we did coverage on the 2 YouTube channels. I did post something on Facebook. I wrote a weekly article on MTG Library, etc. But this did not seem to be enough. Many people missed the article. And many wanted an updated record, like a record of all the matches. And I do pre-record most of the matches. I did that for this season. So keeping an updated record of what has been published is a big extra administrative burden, and we'll come back to that. The value of the Pauper Gauntlet. Yes, I think we have discussed all of this. But it does introduce people to Pauper. It does introduce casual Pauper players to the complexity of the format. And it did attract a lot of really good Pauper players. And I felt really bad when I get a deck that somebody isn't a proven tournament expert in, like Turbofog by Piracore or the Demir Teachings List by Obsen, and then I sit there and of course I can't play the deck as well as they do, but I feel really bad when they get eliminated. We have on the Patreon several other gauntlets ready. There is a standard Pauper Gauntlet on the Patreon. There is a budget modern gauntlet, a real modern gauntlet, and I could even do a legacy or a vintage gauntlet if there was enough money on the Patreon. So there's another reason to please support us on Patreon. Did I just click on the same thing twice? Yes. Okay. The record keeping thing came up several times. People could not keep track of the gauntlet, and my original attitude was that the Pauper Gauntlet should be chaos in the early rounds, and it should be hard to keep track of. But I was convinced that I was wrong. So maybe there is a need of a Pauper Gauntlet website where you can go and just watch how decks are doing, the results of all the published matches. And as I pre-record them, I can't use my own Excel sheet because it has the real statistics of all the matches that have been played, also matches that have not been published yet. So this would need to be the work of someone else, and someone did. And once again, I have forgotten your name and the link. I'm very sorry. There's a lot of things going on with the Pauper Gauntlet. But if you would be able to do it, or if somebody else would volunteer to be this, I would be happy if another Pauper website wanted to do this, to keep an updated record. I know that this is a hard thing to do and it could probably go wrong, and that would be bad for the whole Pauper Gauntlet, but I'm willing to take that risk. But if somebody is willing to be the record keeper for season 4, please let me know. So I need a bad cop and a record keeper, because I can't spend the time updating 2 different records of the Pauper Gauntlet. I did pre-record the matches. I did even them out on the channel, for example, over Christmas, and it helped to avoid unsubscriptions. We have less unsubscriptions than in season 2, but we still had it. But pre-recording was a very good tool, but it did disconnect me from the matches a bit. So if I played a match and then I played 20 other matches and then I had comments on the match I played after playing 20 others, I could not really remember. So it was very important that you put minutes, seconds in the video so I could go and quickly review, as answering comments is the biggest administrative burden of all. But of course that is the interaction that we all know and love, and I really want to do that. So I don't think this is a big enough problem to not pre-record the matches, because otherwise the matches would be very unevenly distributed, because I play when I have the time. I do other things as well, of course. I run 5 podcasts and I run 10 other YouTube channels. This is still the biggest though. So there is a suggestion from me that if we don't reach the Patreon goal of season 4 in December, I could run a Pauper Gauntlet All-Star season. Just run the top 10 decks from every season, eliminating multiples, of course. And this could start in December as well. It's also a goal on the Patreon. So if we reach this goal, but not the season 4 goal, I will run this. But I like your feedback on it. If you think, if you have any ideas on the structure. Otherwise it will just be a mini gauntlet with maybe 26 decks. Okay, this is the point where you can put in anything else. What else do you want to tell me about the Pauper Gauntlet, so that I remember it when I decide to run season 4. And it is, as it looks right now, it is very likely that season 4 will happen at the end of 2017. Unless you guys really want to support the Patreon, because then it will happen earlier. So we have time, but I want your input. And here's the call for volunteers then. I need a bad cop and a record keeper. And maybe I should have someone else help me. What else do I need help with? Oh, I do need collab partners as well. YouTube, websites, FB groups, etc. Anyone that creates Pauper content, like the Reddit or whatever, that want to put decks into into the Pauper Gauntlet. The idea with the collabs is that they should do something for their viewers, for their audience, to help them to run a competition or anything to get a couple of decks into the Pauper Gauntlet. Then they can cheer for their own decks. Okay, I spoke for half an hour. I did not expect to do that. Here are the contact information. Here is the Patreon. Please support it. Twitter, I think the Twitter updates worked great overall. And of course, we are on YouTube. You know that. That was all. Now I should shut up. Please give me your feedback. What do you think about the Pauper Gauntlet? Okay, I'm shutting up now. Thank you for listening.